I'd like to welcome everyone to the 1990 National Finals of the Rube Goldberg Machine Contest. Today we have entries from University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, University of Arkansas, Oakland University from Rochester, Michigan, and from Purdue University. We also have a fifth machine that you will be running during the judges meeting, which is from Pendleton Heights High School. I'd like to introduce our judges before we start. They will come forward. First, a former participant and winner in the Rube Goldberg Machine Contest, Mr. Steven Zellers. From Ball Corporation's Aerospace Systems Group, Mr. Richard Gutschel. And also from the same group, Ball Corporation, Mr. Joe Winslow. Timing the events for today's contest will be Mr. Tim Reith. Before we start, I'll explain a little bit about how the machines are scored and how they are judged. Each team will have a chance to run through their machine, and then they will be required to reset it. This must happen within the 5-minute time limit. After that, they will run the machine again just to make sure that the machine is reset. The judged runs will be the first run and the reset. After that, the second run is only to see that the thing is reset. This is the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. The name of their machine is the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and the spokesperson is Jeffrey Hinn.
I'd like to welcome everyone on behalf of Sigma Beta chapter of Theta from the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And this is our machine for the 1990 finals of the Rube Goldberg competition. I'd like to start first of all with our story. We have a storyline behind here. Loosely follows the movie of the same name, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Keeping with the movie, it was a low-budget movie, so we decided to go with a low-budget machine. We made the whole thing for under $200. And then our story goes something like this. United Flight 705 is headed for New York's Kennedy Airport when a bird is sucked into one of the engines, which causes it to blow up. It spins out of control and crashes into the 3 Mile Island nuclear power facility. This causes the worst accident in nuclear history, and it sends a cloud of radioactive dust into the air. The prevailing winds blow it over a huge tomato farm, and this causes the tomatoes to be highly radioactive. They're slated for disposal, but before they can be disposed, one of them happens to blast out through a side of the hill. This mutated tomato is really in a bad mood. He's out to kill some people. So he sets off down the highway, and he encounters 2 Boilermakers fishing instead of being in class. Just a joke. And but luckily they see him coming and they dive into the water. When they dive into the water, they set off a mine that has been there since World War II, training exercises. This mine explodes, blowing up a dam nearby, which sends water flooding all over the countryside. It leaves burning boats and all sorts of debris in its wake, and he heads off for New York City. He gets to the Empire State Building and decides to go up to the top to take a look at what's going on. When he gets to the top, he sees King Kong up there, and he doesn't want to mess with that guy. So he crawls out a window and slides down a power line to the ground. When he gets to the ground, he sees a tram car and a bus. The tram car escapes, so he hops in the bus and speeds off. He runs into a roadblock, and he crashes through that. And the bus is wrecked. And he decides to take off on foot at this point. He runs through Central Park, and he notices that the military is hot on his trail. He sees a balloon coming down filled with soldiers, so he takes off down the road running. At this point, he sees something that kind of catches his eye. It's a small bar advertising all sorts of things that he would be interested in, naked tomatoes and such. And he decides to go in and relax for a while. Now, he doesn't know this at the time, but Sigma Beta has set a trap for him. We disguised our office as a bar, and we're sitting inside with machine guns and grenades and stuff. But he walks through the door, and we fire at him with machine guns, small arms fire. We throw in a couple grenades just for good measure. But as everyone knows, Theta Taus are lovers, not fighters. So we miss with the entire volley, and he escapes out a side door. When he goes out the door, he ends up on the middle of a train track, and he decides that's a good place to take a rest. He's had a really long day. But just when he's comfortable, a train comes by and crushes him. Immediately, the army is on the scene because they want to destroy all the evidence and deny the event ever took place. And they cart him off. Now they have the task of what to do with this highly radioactive tomato juice. The brainy army scientists get together and think about what to do. And one of them comes up with canning them. His mom used to can tomatoes in ball canning jars and set them down in the basement. So they decided this would be good. So they take them to the ball canning factory, and they seal them in a watertight canning jar, and they present the jar to the president to display on his mantelpiece. The end. Now I'll go through the steps for you so you can sort of follow this machine. It starts over here where we flip a switch, which releases the solenoid up there, and the plane comes flying down. It hits a wire here, releasing some dry ice into a water bath, causing a little smoke, so you can see the radioactive cloud. Then it hits this plate right here inside the reactor, which completes a circuit. It'll turn on a light that simulates flame, turns on a fan to kind of blow the smoke around, and it also releases the solenoid in the back of the machine here that ejects the ball out of the side of the mountain. The ball will then roll down the track, and we have our boiler makers here in front fishing, and they'll fall down onto the mousetrap. The mousetrap will trigger, pulling out the stopper in reservoir, the top reservoir here. The water will then fill the second reservoir, which will light the flames on the boat, and then the water will drain down into the third reservoir, which is located way in the back. When it gets to a certain level, it'll complete a circuit which releases the solenoid in the middle of the machine here, sending a ball into there's an elevator inside the Empire State Building, and when the circuit completes, the ball is ejected into the elevator goes up. We then have a mercury switch attached to a lever. When the elevator gets to the top, the mercury switch trips and stops the elevator, and it also releases a ball there which travels down this cord and hits the bus. The bus then travels down the track and hits the barrier, knocking the weight off the switch, which triggers the trolley cars. There's a cord on one of the trolley cars connected to a switch at the bottom of the ramp, which when the trolley car gets to the top, it'll shut off the trolley cars. And the weight falling off of the switch releases some weights up on top of the blue arm there, and that'll pull a pin on the balloon, releasing the balloon down the string. When the balloon gets to the bottom, it'll hit the lever in front, the black lever, which will raise and release the ball over there, travels down the track here. It'll hit this lever in the middle of our building, which will turn the sign, bar sign, to the office. And at that point, the ball goes and hits a switch inside the building, which will turn on a tape player, also located inside the building. The tape player contains some machine gun noises, a few explosions, And when it gets to the end, the auto stop on the tape player will trigger the pump on top of the water tower, which will fill the jar. The float in the jar will set a micro switch when the jar is half full, so the pump will stop. At that point, it also triggers the train. The train will come down the track. There's a switch in the track right at the ball, which will release this solenoid, dropping the arm onto the jar. When it will also, at the same time, there's a cord on the train. We'll pull the hose out of the jar before the lid falls on it. Then the ball will roll down the tube, hit the car will travel down the track, and there's a switch at the bottom of the track which will turn on the turntable, and that will seal the jar. There's a cord connected to the shaft of the turntable which will wind up as the turntable turns, and at the end of the cord it will flip a switch stopping the turntable. And you'll know that the process is beginning when the red light goes on. That'll go on as soon as the jar starts sealing. And that will be the end of our machine. We'd like to run it for you now. All right, we're ready to begin.
Okay, they are resetting their machine. Again, each team has on their run the option of starting over on their first run, or they have a minor penalty for human intervention, whichever they choose. Each team will run through their machine and then reset it. After that, they will run the machine again. Again, the first run and the time that they are resetting is included in the time limit. Here they go.
Attack of the killer tomatoes! Attack of the killer tomatoes! They'll eat you, pass you, twitch you, mash you, chew you up or run, and finish you off for dinner or lunch.
Good.
Okay, the second round.
Cross. Little man engaged.
Okay, the second entry is from the University of Arkansas. Group is called the Tall Hogs, and their spokesperson is David Gross.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Gross. We're Upsilon Chapter Theta Tau from the University of Arkansas. The name of our team is the Tall Hogs, and the name of our machine is the Spirits of Arkansas. The theme of our machine centers around four things: the Razorback Hogs, nuclear power, moonshine whiskey, and Theta Tau. All these things are synonymous with Arkansas. Our machine has 25 major steps, which are broken into two mechanical circuits. One circuit puts nuclear moonshine in the jar, and the other circuit places the lid on the jar and screws it on. Since the circuit that puts the lid on the jar is faster than the circuit that puts the moonshine into the jar, we had to incorporate a mechanical timer into the machine. And this timer stops the jar lid circuit and waits for the moonshine to go into the jar. When the jar is full, the jar lid circuit continues and screws the lid on the jar. Okay, I'm going to show you how this thing works. Okay, there's two circuits here. The hammer starts both circuits. Okay, when this button here is pushed, the start button right here, it pulls a pin out which swings the hammer. The hammer hits a car, which goes off here, and it also hits a marble and a plunger underneath at the same time. I want to go through the circuit that the car triggers first. Okay, the car is going to land on this pad. It's going to trigger a switch which is going to turn the stereo and the blow dryer on. Now the blow dryer is going to blow this wind vane over. And the wind vane is going to pull the Razorback in front of a light beam that's going into this box right here. Okay, this box has a light sensor in it. And when the light is not hitting this light sensor, it turns a switch on. And this powers a neon sign transformer, which has 15,000 volts, which cuts a string in half that's between the electrodes. Okay, when the string's cut, it drops a weight. This weight triggers our mechanical timer. And this is the variable we had to work on a lot to get it where we were screwing the lid on after we put the water in the jar. And so what this does is it runs sand in here at a certain mass flow rate, and it fills up and sets the lid down slowly after the water gets in the jar. And there's a certain amount of time that this thing runs. But it sets the lid on the jar. And once it sets the lid on the jar, the switch over on this end of the lever is turned on by the weight, and it turns the jar. And this sets down on at the same time the chuck that the jar lid is in. And there's a pin here that this is made to where the two inner pieces of the chuck slip, and this pin turns the switch off and shuts the machine off. Okay, that's the first circuit. The second circuit is the one that puts the water in the jar. Okay, the marble rolls down this tube here and comes out the bottom here and triggers the first domino. Okay, the dominoes go across, hit the last domino, which has tinfoil on it, and it falls across two contacts, which trigger a solenoid. This solenoid pulls the plunger out, which drops the weight, this cup of sand here. And when it goes down, the bucket goes up, pours water into this bucket. Okay, and it also turns this tall hog on. Okay, when the water runs in here, it fills up into the nuclear cooling tower. This is a nuclear powered still right here. And it fills up, and then the nuclear moonshine comes out of this side, runs through the still and into the jar. And at that point, the other circuit kicks in, screws the lid on the jar, and the cycle's complete. Okay, we're gonna give it a try.
Okay, this is the University of Arkansas. Upsilon chapter of Theta Tau from the University of Arkansas.
Hammer. Car. Check. Locks and pencil switch. Check. Blow dryer on. Check. Stereo and tape. Check. Wind vane. Check. Flashlight and light sensor. Wait. Check. String and weight on the pan timer. Check. Sand and top cup. Check. Balance weight and mechanical timer. Check. Center lid. Set tube. Check. Check power switch and check. Check. Check the wiring, plugs. Check. Those seconds are ready. Turn on power.
My name is Steve, and I'm here to say that I'm an engineer. That's what I do all day. My name is Nick. I like to analyze. I can solve any problem any size. They call me Joe, the software man. I write code like no one can.
And I'm Rick, my friend. I program too. At $100 a line, I'll write one for you.
Start resetting.
Good.
It looks like it's successfully run the first time. We're now beginning the resetting process.
Minute 30.
Hey, Chris.
You.
Never mind.
Start on your part, Chris.
Running checklist. Put some sand in there.
2.5. Okay.
Easy.
Final zone.
Hang on, Chris. Run.
tilted toward me.
3 minutes. Watch the limit.
That's all we needed. Get you back there.
3 minutes, 30 seconds.
We're going, man. Get ready to launch. Will that work, Chris?
Start your checklist.
Oh, that thing.
Hammer.
Hammer. Get this going.
Check.
Call that.
Checklist plate.
Guitar.
Check.
Box and pencil switch.
Check.
Blow dryer on.
Check.
Check.
Stereo and tape on.
Check.
Wind vane.
Check.
Check.
Razorback.
Check.
Flashlight and light sensor.
Check.
Float switch. Check.
Oh, check.
String and weight and pencil
Get
timer.
ready. Don't shake it.
Check.
Minute left. Sand and top.
Check.
Balance weight on the mechanical timer.
Check.
Check the lid and water tube.
Check.
Power switch on Chuck.
Check.
On.
Check.
Yeah.
Wiring and plug-ins.
Check.
Hit the button.
Both
button.
both circuits ready to go.
Check.
Here goes the verification round.
Design, set that box and deliver it in time. Plot that crab. Plot that crab. I get up the stage at 7:05. Put out my knees, this is.
It's time.
To rock. I go downstairs and grab some food.
Then I'm out the door. I'm one bad dude.
We get to work and into our stalls.
Make some coffee, make a few calls.
Our donuts today, what's the deal? It's a customer review.
And our free meal, we say, good.
They say, good.
We say,
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. Sit right down and go to my mail. I make my way down the paper trail. And onto a meeting in the conference room.
catch the links and wake up the food.
We all calculate and do design.
That was Upsilon chapter, University of Arkansas.
All right.
It's all hogs.
This is the $88 all-nighter. It's about how much we spent was $88, a little bit more time than all night. We're from Detroit, and since we're from Detroit, we thought we'd use the old famous Ford assembly line for our system. So we hooked up a Chevy pickup truck here with the Joker and one of his women, and they're going to start off. And since this is a ball canning jar, we thought we'd can a pickle with this. So right now, the device is going to start by hitting 2 marbles going down there, drops into this. This triggers the tape player. The tape player goes on, starts a pepper turning, which is going to pull down this limit switch, which is going to start this motor, which the car will take off. It'll come up and it'll stop underneath the salt. The salt will rotate and dump salt into the ball canning jar. The motor will then start up again. It will go to the, it'll trigger this switch here, will trigger this mousetrap, which will smack, knocking this weight off, pulling out this pin, snapping the scissors shut, dropping the dill into the canning jar. It'll then come up. This will smack the woman in the face and will cause the pickle to drop into the canning jar, or actually cucumber, to become a pickle. And then it'll go underneath here and it will hit another limit switch, will stop. When this limit switch is stopped, it will do 3 things. It will pull out this sleeve, which will drop the lid on top of here, the center ring. It will also pull this down, which will begin this thing rolling, and also it will start a machine, a mechanical machine winding upstream, which will pull down this marble. The race will be on, the thing will roll down, slide into this contraption while marble's rolling down, which will hit this limit switch and begin the vehicle moving again. Then it will come up, hit another limit switch, which will activate a motor ripping this, another sleeve, same thing, out, causing, forgot the mousetrap up here, which pulls the spring out and causes the weight to fall down. Then the lid will pull out, the lid will fall down on top of the canning jar. The vehicle will then move along this board with this foam pad. And it'll drive up and it will stop by hitting the baby's hand up there. And if I missed anything, I'm sure you'll see it when we run it. Oh, also, on our way here, we ran into some difficulties with transportation and part of our machine got damaged, so we're going to give it a good try.
Okay, that was Arthur Stevenson from Oakland University, from Detroit, Michigan.
Is everything, you got that? Mike, did you wind some more?
That's one. A marble. That's one. Reset the switches. Oh.
Oh, we forgot our ugly dude. This is also going to move. Oh, he starts it. Let me know when you start.
You gotta add water.
Oh, we have to add water. All right. The marble is set on the wrong side. Can we, okay. Well, how do you want to?
Touch it or?
Okay, it was just, it was set up wrong.
Just touch this
okay, so, there we go.
Come on. Put the lid in, Mike.
Okay, yeah, we're going to do a restart.
Okay, they've chosen to restart. They have the option of starting over. So they will make preparations for the second run. And again, they will be starting from scratch. Their first run, once they start again, will be their judged run.
Okay.
Gate didn't open.
Okay, they finish their first run. They will try to reset the machine inside the time limit. The jar was successfully placed on, or the lid was placed on the jar.
20 seconds.
You set?
Get the dill, Art.
Dill it. Dill it.
1 minute, 10
You're
seconds.
still right there.
Center the cube. Got it. Center the cube. Put the basket over there.
Basket. Stop it. Oh.
1 minute.
Okay. Still a minute.
50 seconds. Reset on the switches.
Oh, reset. Mine's okay.
Lines reset.
Now take this time.
40
Okay.
seconds.
40 seconds?
Where's the...
Oh, up here. That's off.
35
Okay.
seconds.
Is that 35 seconds?
Ready? Go. 30
Want to wait till
seconds.
the last minute?
No, just go.
Okay, they finished resetting. And go for the final run.
There, it might work.
Okay. What didn't trigger? Yes. No, let it go.
Good start. Well, let's line it up by hand while we've intervened.
Push it. Push it. Okay, get out of the way.
Go. Pull forward on Art. Okay, limit switches are good.
You want to flip it over? Hold it above
Okay,
you.
there you have it.
Over your head.
The pickle's in it.
Well, the lid's on there, and they successfully put the lid on the jar. That's Arthur Stevenson and Linus Isabel from Oakland University from Detroit, Michigan. Well, I will introduce the fourth entry. It's the winner of our local contest held here last month. It is members of the Society of Manufacturing Engineers here at Purdue. Their machine is entitled Having a Ball. Spokespersons are Matt Garbarino and Todd Henry.
Okay, how about them Boilermakers? All right, as many of you know, we are Purdue's entry in this year's National Rube Goldberg competition. My name is Todd Henry, and I'm from Team Technology. My fellow team members are Phil Santos, Jerry Keller, Brian Sauer, Dave Kovaleski, and Matt Garbarino. The name of our machine is Having a Ball, and we are all from the School of Technology. First of all, I'd like to thank some of the people that helped us with the machine. Steve Hahn, Professor Steve Widmer, Society of Manufacturing Engineers, who is our sponsor, SMC Corporation, and a very special thanks to Professor Brad Harriger for all his support and early morning coffee and donuts. When we started our project 4 months ago, we decided that we would need a theme. So we sat down with a ball jar and filled it full of water. First thing that popped to our minds was moonshine. So we decided to base our machine on the various steps of making moonshine. And since today is St. Patrick's Day, we decided to make green moonshine. Now Matt Garbarino will run through the various steps that lead to the ball jar.
Okay, our machine starts over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to throw a main power switch up like this, and that's going to actuate a pump, which is inside our mountain, which is going to pump Irish Spring water down our chute right here, which is going to turn our water wheel, and that water wheel is hooked up to our rocking chair, which is going to dump the corn into our distillery. The fluid then will pour into a Purdue cup, which is on a teeter-totter. That, in turn, will raise and knock the basketball down the Go Boiler chute and make a basket, which will hit a switch, which will cause the Purdue Oaken bucket to drop and the Purdue P to raise up and pop the Texas Longhorns balloon like we're going to do in the tournament tomorrow. That'll knock down the mechanism here to release the airplane, which will shoot across and hit a bullseye, which will hit the bat pole. Batman will come soaring down, and he will hit a switch, which will in turn inflate this balloon, which is behind Purdue Pete's arm. The balloon will slowly inflate, and the arm will knock over and hit a teeter-totter, which will hit an IU outhouse, which will knock over and reveal Bobby Knight with his pants down. That'll hit a switch, and we'll turn on a blow dryer, which will turn this fan, which will cause this arrow with an attached washer to follow this fish line to the other pole, which will trigger a mouse trap. That in turn will hit a soccer ball, which will come down this chute and make a goal. When that hits that switch, that'll cause the Boiler Express to travel this way and make a U, and then it'll hit a switch which will make our pumping station arm knock over and pump our contents into the Ball Corporation. And then that's going to trigger our Ball Corporation sign to raise. The twister sign will light up, which is the name of our mechanism over here. The jar will come out with the green fluid in it, hit a switch, and the air pistons will place it onto the twister, and the motor will turn on, and the jar or the lid will be placed on. And then when it's sealed, it'll push it back onto the conveyor for judging. So without any further ado, let's have a ball.
We got a little time to check things out. Check the open bucket, everything, the solenoid's okay. The balloon. The bullseye. Check the Brian,
successful run on the first run, so they'll now begin their reset.
Pull the basketball out of the hoop.
Okay, get the soccer ball.
Reset the bucket. Bring it up real close.
Check the wheels, Tom.
Check those pulleys.
I got it. Push the wheel. Okay.
Yeah, we will.
Rotate.
Re-roll.
They are back. With the loose lip. Put it on the block. Loosen the lip. Ball loose the
We got a balloon over here on the corner.
Coming up on 2 minutes.
Take out that junk first. Reset airplane.
At 2:30.
Dump the water from the cup.
Move the oil back.
Kyle, how's that train?
Okay, and let's reset it.
Time.
Coming up on 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Check the reservoir while you're there. Slide that to the right when you stick it back in.
Come on, check that down.
Stop on the left. What else, Jack?
No, align this.
Plenty of time, we got it.
Your way, your way,
Take it easy.
your way. And that's too much.
3:30.
Okay. Okay, stop. Train, push it all the way back.
What? The tower.
Bullseyes aligned.
The tower. Tire? How's it tire?
Hi, Mom. Good. Say hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
Coming up on 4 minutes. Got it. 4 minutes.
Look, you're on the big screen.
Align the water wheel, you added some corn, you pulled the basketball out.
Yeah, tapes.
Okay. Reset the basketball.
4:10.
Everything looks good here. Is balloon okay?
4:15.
I think we're done.
Okay.
Okay.
Do it too.
Okay, they finished resetting. Here goes the second run.
That's it.
There you have it. They put the lid on the jar. That was Society of Manufacturing Engineers from the School of Technology at Purdue. The judges will now meet to determine the final scores and to see who has come into the first 3 places. While they're meeting, we have a 5th machine on the far right, to your right. This is a class from Pendleton Heights High School, the advanced physics class. And their spokesperson is their instructor, Pat Medler.
First of all, I wanted to thank the Theta Tau for allowing us to participate in this contest. We were really just a demonstration.
We didn't have enough time to get the computer programmed. We basically have no electricity. So we're going to try to work everything that is supposed to have electricity manually from behind the machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the first section now. Where's the metal ball? Okay, this is how the first section is supposed to work. Which triggers the electricity to the fan, which raises that, which triggers the car, which triggers the other pneumatic. This ball will drop off the magnet into the funnel. And it's supposed to set off the mousetrap. Okay, now Tarzan is on his way up the tree. This is my section, by the way. Whoa. The freak of nature. Gravity didn't work. Well, I guess that happens sometimes. We try, what can I say? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. That was, again, the advanced physics class from Pendleton Heights High School from Pendleton, Indiana. And most of all, we'd like to thank Ball Corporation for their support in contributing to the contest, as well as providing judges for the contest. As I said, the scores were very close, and the judges have come up with their final scores. In third place, from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. They receive a check for $50. Second place, receiving the second place traveling trophy and a check for $100. It's from Oakland University, Detroit, Michigan. Arthur Stevenson comes here. And before we announce first place, I would also like to say that the Lafayette chapter of the Society of Manufacturing Engineers contributed $100 to the prize money, and that puts us at the final first place machine, first place being $300, and the traveling trophy, which will stay right where it was at, because first place goes to Having a Ball from the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. Society of Manufacturing Engineers and Having a Ball. Thank you to our participants who came in today or last night, and thank you all for coming. We hope to see you next year.
Container up. Now when the ball that was released by the mad skier falls down the funnel, it comes down a chute and pulls a string, will release the tube, and we'll drop it below the water line, so the gravity will be able to bring the water down through the tube into the funnel, filling the ball jar. Now the ball jar will move down to the next station, which is triggered by a laser sensor underneath where the lid will be placed on the ball jar. At the same time, an electric signal is sent up to the Lego motor, which pulls Tarzan up the tree. At the top of the tree, there's a lever with a coconut on it. Tarzan pushes up one side of the lever, which releases the coconut into the funnel, rolling down the track, knocking the person off into the box on the seesaw. And the seesaw transfers the energy into a dowel rod, which lifts up a barricade holding the car. The car ramps off the track and pulls a cork by the string, which releases a marble down the stair steps onto the spiral. Now it rolls down the spiral and comes out the mountain onto a mousetrap, which releases a string holding the bomb on the airplane. And the bomb falls down onto the target, which triggers another electric switch, which will activate the drill where the ball jar has been moved by conveyor belt, and will tighten the lid down. Then the conveyor belt is supposed to reverse by the computer back to the beginning, and that's basically how it works. But since all the cords were wired through the computer and we didn't have enough time to get the computer programmed, we basically have no electricity. So we're going to try to work everything that is supposed to have electricity manually from behind the machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the first section now. Where's the metal ball? Okay, this is how the first section is supposed to work. Which triggers the electricity to the fan, which raises that, which triggers the car, which triggers the other pneumatic. Now we have the mad skier, which isn't set up yet. We need to set up the mad skier. So set that down there. This mousetrap's set. Okay, this ball will drop off the magnet into the funnel. And it's supposed to set off the mousetrap, which releases the mad skier, knocking another ball into the funnel, which pulls the other string, which dumps everything in there. Okay. Now we have, for the final step, the motor activates, and Tarzan is pulled up the we don't have the mousetrap set. David Mott, everyone. David Mott is going to set the mousetrap. Okay, now Tarzan is on his way up the tree, down the tree, up the tree. This is my section, by the way. Whoa. The freak of nature. Gravity didn't work. Well, I guess that happens sometimes. We try, what can I say? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. That was, again, the advanced physics class from Pendleton Heights High School from Pendleton, Indiana. And they are welcome to come back again next year if they're... Right now, we're still waiting for the judges to finish